thinking about some thinking about the changes that we'll be working with for the fall 24 term and beyond. I want to start with a reminder about the retiring of the Zoom integration. We have shared that this was coming in a couple of communications and in prior webinars, but it's an unfortunate aspect of this transition that we have to remove the Zoom integration from Quantway and Statway collaborations, and this will be enacted on June 25th. So that's certainly worth noting for folks that will be running summer sections. I think Jan is here. I know we've already had a few conversations with folks around their summer implementation. So if that's something that you want further discussion or guidance about how to think about that, please do reach out to Dan and myself. We're absolutely prepared to help folks think through that. But the Zoom integration is being retired June 25th this year. And I want to think through what that means in terms of the changes that we might need to make to the collaboration nodes within Revise It. So this will be familiar to everyone who has been running fully online courses, Quantway and Statway courses. The way that the current configuration of collaboration nodes results in a process where instructors first create subgroups in the collaboration nodes, and the creation of those subgroups opens up the gate for students in their subgroups to enter the collaboration node, access a Zoom meeting space, and then for one student to claim the leader role and open up the collaboration lesson. And of course, the current implementation of the Zoom integration then produces a recording that's available to the instructor shortly after the meeting ends. So with the retiring of the Zoom integration, there's a couple of there's two options that I'm playing around with that I want to invite you to ponder around how these collaboration nodes may be configured going forward. So option one is that the collaboration nodes within Quantway and Statway Revise It courses are reconfigured to be individual activities. So what that means is that students would access a collaboration activity in exactly the same way as they would access a preparation or an exercise. They would not get a grade for doing the collaboration activity, but would get a completion indicator if they have worked through the material and submitted their work. So it would look a little bit like maybe what the surveys look like. When a student has completed a survey, we just get a little check mark on that student's learning map. So that is one option. I'm sure already there's some pros and cons that we can think about if we think about going with that configuration approach. The other approach would be to maintain the subgroup process in the collaboration nodes, but simply remove the join/start meeting option from the experience. So this would maintain the need for the instructor to create subgroups in the collaboration activities, and students would still be required to use the leader role in order to access the collaboration lesson. So again, we've got time to really dig into both of these options in the latter half, but I'll let them both sit with you, because I think there's both advantages and disadvantages to both. I think I know what I would prefer, but I want to get the wisdom of the crowd here. So that will definitely be something we return to a little bit later. The final thing about fall implementation would be an exploration of other video conferencing tools, either that are out there or that are local to your campus that may fill that space left by the Zoom integration. So there are a couple of options that we'll share later in this webinar, one being Google Meet, but I know that many, if not all campuses will have some tool, whether it's baked into their LMS or some other tool available that may be leveraged to create these online synchronous spaces for student groups. Okay. So when we think about, regardless of which configuration option we eventually decide to go with for collaboration nodes, I think the availability of Quantway and Statway materials in Google Doc format under the OER framework, and sort of leveraging local video conferencing tools that we have available, provide us with a couple of different flexible options about how we might want to implement engaging and meaningful online collaborative experiences. So I want to talk through three that I think will resonate with folks here. The first option uses Realize It only. And we think that this option gets pretty close to the current model. So what this results in is there's still the subgroup approach to the collaborative activities. There's still the notion of a revolving leader role. And there's still the notion of collaborative activities and collaborative products being, albeit optional, a graded component of a Quantway or Statway online implementation. The video conferencing tool in this model is, of course, something that is enacted and produced outside of Realize It. Dan will spend a couple of minutes later just giving an overview of how Google Meet might satisfy these requirements. But it's definitely an option that if there's a video conferencing tool local to your campus and familiar to faculty and available to students, that might be used to create these spaces for students to meet online. Capturing the collaboration summaries, we are at this point in time maintaining or keeping the collaboration discussion summaries in the collaboration activities in Realize It, so they are going to be available and visible to students in there. But one thing is thinking about how we want to capture that information. So under this model, whether you use Google Meet or some other local video conferencing tool, there's a little bit of flexibility in how we think about capturing those student discussion summaries. If recording is available, then that's definitely something that you could leverage, but there's maybe some space here to think about other types of capturing capabilities, whether it's some submission requirement in your learning management system, or maybe these discussion summaries take the form of a discussion forum post in your LMS as well. And that's something that the student group does to indicate their collaboration completion. So a couple of things to think about there. But what this model sort of provides is that it's a single platform for preparations, collaborations, and exercises. So it gets very close to what we currently do, with the difference being that the vehicle that allows for online synchronous collaboration is different. It's not Zoom, it's some other tool. Option two is a combination of two primary sources. So this is Revise plus Google Docs. So what this model could look like is, although the collaboration activities within the digital space will be visible and available to students, it could be that the recommendation is for students to mostly ignore the collaboration nodes within a learning map. And instead, instructors can leverage the collaboration content in the form of Google Docs. So creating a Google Doc of collaboration lessons for each of the subgroups. And that is what those subgroups would use when meeting online to do collaborative work. So they'd be working in the same Google Doc. They'd be typing in answers into the document, and their complete document would be the thing that the group then produces as part of their collaborative work. So there's a nice, something nice about this approach is that all the student group answers are in the Google Doc itself. Plus, at the end of the Google Doc, there may be is space for the summary discussion to have taken place as well. So it's a single artifact that the group produces as evidence of their collaborative work. Of course, in this approach, the student group don't get access to any hints or solutions as they're working through that material. This model, of course, in addition to that, creates this system whereby collaborations are done using the Google suite of platform of Google Docs, whereas the preparations and exercises would continue to be done in Revise. And then option three would be entirely relying upon Google Docs to deliver the experience. So this would be representing all Quantway, Statway course components, either in your LMS in some fashion, if you've got the will and desire to reimagine individual activities as assignments in your LMS, for example, or whether students just get access to versions of the Google Docs themselves, and they are invited to engage with preparations in Google Docs or in your LMS if you build it in your LMS. They are invited to do the collaborations in Google Docs. And then with exercises, again, they've got either Google Docs available, or if you build those exercises in your LMS, they can engage with them that way. Similar type of process of creating the synchronous spaces using Google Meet or some other local conferencing tool. Same way of capturing the summaries and product of the collaborative experiences, and produces an experience where students are really working within the learning management system and or Google Docs only. So Revise It is not a part of this option at all. So three different sort of models that I hope are interesting and maybe prompt some interesting considerations on your side. We will have plenty of time to dig into any one of these or all three in a few moments. I do want to give Dan just a couple of minutes to talk through the process of using Google Meet to support these online synchronous sessions.
Right. Thank you, Lewis. And actually, before we talk about Google Meet, I'll just say that if you do have video conferencing available to you locally that students are already using, maybe in their other courses, that would, of course, be the first thing that I would investigate. If you have Zoom access, the one question I would have about that is how you might be able to set up independent meeting spaces in Zoom for your different groups that they could get into without you being present. But maybe you have Blackboard Collaborate or the big blue button, or if you're really unlucky, you have Microsoft Teams. Whatever that solution is, if it's one that's already familiar with you and that students have access to, I would investigate that first. But assuming that you don't have a tool, or maybe the tool that you do have access to doesn't quite check the boxes that you would like for it to, I would definitely look at Google Meet. I remember using Google Meet when it used to be, I think it was Google Hangouts, and it's come a long way. Lewis and I have played around with it a bit. And just to share with you where I think it would fit in, if I didn't have a video solution, I would explore this one. A couple of the big reasons, of course, number one, you can utilize it for free in a similar way that you can use Zoom licenses or Zoom accounts for free with some limitations. The limitations for Google Meet are once there are more than two participants in one of those meeting spaces, then it does give a 1 minute time limit. I'm sorry, a 1 hour time limit. But after an hour, I would also encourage my collaborating groups, you know what, maybe it's a good time to just shut down, take a 5 minute break. We'll log back in 5 minutes, make sure you come back, go get a drink of water, use the restroom, whatever. Maybe that 1 hour limit isn't so bad. The thing that it really allows you to do that I like is Lewis listed the URL there, meet.google.com. You can go there and with a regular Gmail account, you can just create meeting space after meeting space after meeting space. And as long as you've got a way of tracking those links or meeting IDs, I think you can do it both ways in the same way that you can with Zoom. And you have a way of assigning maybe in your LMS, hey, this is group one, this is your Google Meet link and ID. Group two, this is your Google Meet link and ID. It's a nice way of being able to spin up those links and then share it out with students, and they'll all have their own places. The other feature that is, I think, really neat is since we've made the curriculum available with Google Docs, and of course, you would make a copy to use in a specific group so that they could edit them in Google Docs. If students are using the Google Docs and they're also using Chrome, you can nest the video and chat that is in Google Meet really alongside of the document. If you've ever seen what that looked like, you know, instead of it being, and actually you can do it both ways. You can split it out into its own tab or have it just sitting right there beside of the Google Doc. So because of the price and the ease of access for creating multiple meeting spaces, if you don't have a video solution, or if you would like to just explore using something else, I would definitely look into Google Meets. We wanted, as we said at the top of the hour, to really give you as much opportunity as possible to ask questions, because I think you've all on this call, you've implemented fully online courses. That was sort of our target audience. You've already implemented them, or you're considering teaching QuantWay and StatWay fully online. And because of these changes, there may be questions or considerations that you're either mulling over, or maybe you've already made some decisions on how you're going to facilitate fully online QuantWay and StatWay. And we thought having folks who do that together allows us to sort of share our thinking around how that might look, but also for you to share amongst each other the ways that you're thinking about things in this OER space Zoom
Yep.
absent. So with that, I will open up the floor.
Fantastic, Dan. I will ask if I'll get us started because I know I offered up and tabled a
Yeah,
couple of
that's right.
options for the group. And I wonder how those options landed and if anyone wants to share their thinking on what would be best in terms of the collaboration node configuration, whether we go individual and it's open like preparations and assignments, or whether we maintain the subgroup approach and just remove the meeting link from those collaborations. So I'll let that sit and I'll be happy. Yes, Eric, I love it.
I'm sorry, it's crunch mode and I'm rested. So I'm just handing everything that comes flying at me. But
Yeah, what do you think?
for
What are your
sim,
thoughts?
and this is totally selfish. This is for us. We need something that's going to be simple and easy for our students. And so Google Meet is sort of screaming to me. Positively. I'm skeptical that we can record. Did you say there's a 1 hour limit on recording?
So
Or does that depend?
1 hour limit for the free accounts for the duration of the meeting time together. We did some exploration of recording, Eric, and it is possible with some of their paid accounts, but it's Google accounts, so they're not crazy expensive anyway. The one question that I think is still open regarding that is how do we initiate the recording if the owner of the space wasn't there? So for example, if you had a mid-tier or low-tier paid account and you got a certain amount of recording space, because that's basically what you're paying for is the storage of those recordings.
Yep.
And you had some ability, if you had that functionality because of your paid account, then if you weren't there, how would the students be able to initiate that recording?
Right.
That
right.
would be the open question I would have for recording with Google Meets.
And the only way that's tickling in my mind that I got to check with the team is we have this video software, Uja, that allows us to record stuff from Blackboard, from Ultra. Are you familiar with that, Lewis? Uja?
What's the name again? Can you say that?
Uja, Yuja.
No, I don't know of it. Is it something that's native to Blackboard that's baked in?
No, I think it's one of their apps that meets their criterion, and so it's a listed app. But anyway, it might handle the recordings.
That's definitely worth exploring, Eric. If that's something that, I mean, you're clearly already aware of its existence, which is a great thing. But yeah, exploring with IT folks around how to make it into the experience.
Oh yeah, Meg's the bomb. We'll figure it out. The one other thing I just wanted to ask, is anybody else using Blackboard Ultra?
I referred earlier to Blackboard Collaborate. I didn't actually know that it is now Blackboard Ultra. I used Blackboard Collaborate a very long time ago.
Right. We use it for our class meeting and it's great. It works super. But the subgroups are really clunky. And we're trying to figure out how you could I don't think we can record in 3 or 4 places at once, only the main group, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you.
So let me ask you, Eric, before we open the floor up to anyone else, do you have any thoughts about how you would prefer the collaboration nodes to be accessed by students? Do you like the subgroup approach? Or
I like the subgroup approach in Realize It.
Right.
at first, that's where my heart is. I got to figure out though how everything's going to work,
Yeah,
and I got to be prepared to adjust.
right.
I'm going to follow as the other institution in Milwaukee.
Oh yeah, duh. Sorry, Kelly.
It's okay. Actually, and it's not just us two, but personally, I'm gonna get us back on track, sorry. But I like the idea of having the subgroup button because I have a feeling if it's not there, students won't do it. So by actually having it there, I really think that's a reminder to them that they shouldn't be doing these. I mean, if I'm understanding how it works, then they shouldn't be doing these on their own, although they still could, right? I mean, they could still, like they do now, they could go in and just be a group of one, which, I do have more students than ever this semester wanting to do that, but anyway, so that's my 2 cents on those would be because there's quite a few. We do the co-rec also, and so the way it sounds like is it'd be like with the Quantway co-rec, they get the check mark saying that they've done the lesson, but there's no score with it at all. And I know half of my students don't even bother to go through the lesson; they just go straight to the homework problems. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. I like the subgroup button.
Yep. Thank you, Kelly.
Yeah, this may have been discussed in Lewis's framing of the decision, but the thing that the subgroup button allows is since somebody has to take on the leadership role, if you want to review, if you do in your current process, review the product of the collaboration, then that process would not change. You would go in, you would see the leader for the groups entered information and to realize it as a single source for the group without them having to do anything.
Yep.
Well, plus I think Kelly nodded when you said this. The only way they're going to get the hints and solutions is if they're in that
Yes.
system. So that gets my vote as well.
Yeah, that's a big thing for me because my students struggle even with the hints and answers. And I think it's going to be a disaster for my students if they don't. If we teach async, if it were synchronous, that might be a little different. But with the async students, I think it's going to be a disaster. Not that we couldn't, give them the answers too, right? You make a separate answer doc or something. But I just And to be honest, we start the day after Memorial Day for summer session. And I really feel that maybe someday I'll have the time and energy to put everything in our LMS. But that's not going to happen anytime soon.
It's possible. It's a weekend project, Kelly. I know your weekend needs some
a
other
long
time.
weekend, but a weekend.
You all know how much I sleep, so.
Tari, you were messaging me about your approach that you're taking, and I actually prompted you to share that with the group.
Yeah, super.
Yeah, go right ahead.
So the first question that I have is, Louis, when you talk about having the subgroup node, is it going to be like once we decide if we have it or not, then that would be the only option, or everybody would have, okay, then I do want the subgroup node in there.
So it's going to be, it's a session that is made at the global level. At this point in time, I've got two options, and I think that I'm so glad to hear that thus far people are leaning towards a subgroup. That was definitely my preference, for all the reasons that we've surfaced thus far. So yes, it'll be the same process for everyone across Quantway and Statway.
Okay. And then my other thing is I am actually going to be using Zoom. I have a license for my institution, and I am 99.9% sure I have cleared all the kinks, and I will be having my subgroups. I'll be creating one subgroup per unit, only because I don't want to go fetch what unit it is.
Right.
And then I'm going to have the transcript. I'm going to have the video. I don't have to be present to be to assign anybody to be the co-host. So it's just gonna be the same for us. I just have to share it with my faculty and I'll set that up. So if anybody's interested, I'll be willing to share my settings. It's really quick. Like I said, I am not ready to share at this moment because I have the 0.01% that I need to check, but I think I'm ready to go.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Sounds excellent.
Lena. I saw Nicole's vote in the chat as well for the subgroups, Louis.
Okay, yes. It's a landslide.
Yes. Good problem. Lena, you are muted. Sorry.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Now we can.
It's Lana. I have a question. If it was individual, with a check mark, would that push the grade into gradebook? Like if we assign grade for completion or not?
It would not. I think you'll remember that the way that the unit scores are configured now, that it's if a preparation is present. I know you're a Statway instructor. If a preparation is present, then the unit grade is 50% from each. So that is what produces the unit score. In Statway, if it's only an exercise in a unit and no collaboration, then it's just the exercise that is the unit score. So the collaborations would just be completion, no grade.
Well, is it possible to assign grade for completion? And is it possible to connect to the gradebook? I have mine integrated into Canvas.
It's technically possible on our end, but through discussion with other faculty, the general consensus was that folks didn't want it to be graded, and that because of the LTI integration, there was still the option of applying a grade in the gradebook on the LMS side for the collaborations.
Okay. Okay, I'm kind of torn between option 1 and option 2. I do like the group option when it works. But what I noticed recently, it's so much work on my end, and then my students don't do it, and they ask to do it individually after, and they ask me to look at it after, which creates even more work for me. So I wanted to see if it's possible to explore individual option and give students an option to do it together at the same time, but on their own computers.
Actually, I have a question for Louis regarding that. If you set up groups and somebody goes in and takes on the leadership role, then you would see the product of their work. But regardless, even if each one of the 4 members went in independently, took on the leadership role and did it, you would still have access, Lena, to each one of their products. So while the groups do enable and encourage the group getting together and identifying a single leader to go through the collaboration, they can still be accessed individually without any change in configuration on your part.
Yep, that's correct, Dan.
But they still have to be assigned to a group, correct?
They have to, yeah. In order to be able to claim the leader role in a collaboration, they first need to be in a group, but then each member of a subgroup can claim the leader role and then open up a version of the collaboration.
Okay.
So let's think of an example. If we've got a group of 4 students, student 1, 2, 3, 4, they've been put in a subgroup. They can all log into the Revise It system, go to the learning map for a unit, click into the collaboration. Student 1 can claim the leader role, open up the lesson. A minute later, student 2 can claim the leader role, open up their version of the collaboration. and the same thing for student 3 and student 4. So they will all have a version of the lesson open in front of them, and they can work through it in unison if they want, or if someone's doing it after the fact, they can do this after the group work's complete.
And that would leave behind records for the instructors that they did it. 3,
Yeah.
4.
All 4 of
Whoa.
them.
Mhm. And that would allow currently whoever is the leader is the only one who gets the lesson saved. So by each person going in, they would be able to go back in and access their work.
Yep. They've got a record of their groups.
Exactly.
kind of
Which
thing.
I actually kind of like, because my students are always asking.
Yep. Yeah, it's always been the drawback of going all in with the collaborative approach. Way back when we first designed the collaborative system and realized it was that we wanted there to be a focal point of those collaborations. But there's enough flexibility in the system that you can jig it a little bit so that everyone can get a record.
So this may be a better question for you guys outside of this talk, but as someone who will be teaching a summer course starting in like 2 weeks, halfway through, we're going to lose the Zoom integration. So I'm thinking not to even. How is that going to look? I mean, will it just stop? Will it? Are you pushing a new thing out?
As far as the aesthetics of it for students and instructors, I still need to iron out some or identify some unknowns on my end, but my intention is that for both students and instructors, the exact same process will be maintained. But when you get to after you click into a collaboration, everything is exactly as it has been. There'll be the tile with your group. If you're the leader, then you'll get access to the lesson. There'll simply not be a join meeting button.
Okay.
And then on the instructor side, same thing. There just won't be a start join meeting button option.
Okay.
And no recordings, of course. But otherwise, that's my intention. And at this point, I'm quite confident that I can make it a reality. So yeah, on your note, Kelly, of this change happening midway through an implementation, I know is Jan still here?
Yes.
I know that Dan and I have had a couple of calls with Jan, because Jan's in a similar situation where things will have started and then there's this implementation or this configuration change halfway through. And I think if memory serves, Jan was going to communicate the new process right off the bat so that students did not get familiar with a process that would go away halfway through the experience. Am
Actually,
I remembering that correctly?
No, we changed the plan.
Oh, right.
Mary's also teaching with us, and we decided to get them integrated into the system just because it's sometimes so hard for them to sort it out, not
Right.
throw any curves until maybe next week. They're in week 2 now, so we were thinking in week 3 or maybe week 4, we would start preparing them for this transition and
Right.
have it done by the middle of June.
Right, okay. Okay, so yeah, you've got 2 options, Kelly. Right.
Yeah. I did want to plant one other seed that we didn't really talk about, but the collaborative summary feedback. those will still be in the collaboration. So those prompts will be there for leaders so they can still go in and put those sort of predefined prompts. But this is also an opportunity if you would like to take that out of Realize It and have that collaboration summary feedback surface somewhere more publicly. If you want to use a discussion board post, that sort of thing, one of the limitations of having it in system is that it hasn't been publicly visible to the rest of the course. So yes, another flexibility is if you want to have that sort of, even absent the recordings, have them report out in a different venue.
I was wondering if with the time limit on Google Meets that you mentioned, if it would even just be possible for them to record just that piece of it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because that's really the thing I always watch first. And very seldom do I go back and watch the whole hour and a half video. I mean, unless they're really struggling with something, but that's the piece that I that to me is the most important. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean I mean even with a free Zoom account, I mean it could be rolled into whether this is the leader's responsibility or some other member of the group, that they trigger the recording to start when the group is about to engage in that discussion, and then they submit that to the instructor after the fact. That's definitely an approach that's possible. But yeah, I see Lana has put in the chat that she's brought
Google Docs.
collaboration summary questions into Google Docs, and that's how students engage with it. That's nice.
One of the things I liked about possibly even using your LMS is if your LMS has that sort of built-in video capabilities within the LMS to do a video response.
Yeah, I mean I do like that idea that it keeps everything contained within the LMS and gives some visibility to different student thinking. It's if it's one student who's responsible for relaying the group's approach, there's a little bit of a it could be a little bit, there's a heightened maybe anxiety around it. The group thing is nice because it shares the responsibility.
Yeah, it seems like every option we consider has those pros and cons. Tyree?
That's a question. How are you guys still updating materials? If there's typos, realize that you to submit it, or we're not that anymore.
That was choppy. Did you get that?
I didn't. Yes, the audio is a little bit choppy. Terry, can you ask that question again?
Yes. So are we able to keep sending corrections for Realize?
Yes, that is still an option. The only difference is where you will send those. So of course, with this transition, the retiring of the CMP portal, the Realize It platform itself is being built out to take on the responsibilities of the portal, and part of that involves technical support. So any technical issues, any content issues that are experienced will no longer come to the My Pathway support desk, but will go to the Realize It support desk, and then they will share things with us as necessary.
So Louis, if I have about 6 corrections or suggestions, where do I send them now? And I just been really busy and haven't been able to submit them, but this is like in my to-do list next week.
I would just use the feedback mechanism in the portal. I can throw up the link into the chat, but if you log into your CMP, your My Pathway portal account,
okay,
you'll see on the right there's a faculty feedback link. and it opens up a error and suggested ideas reporting form. Let me see if I can get the link. I'll just throw it into the chat just so everyone can see it. Thanks, Mary. Yes, Lana.
I have a general question also. I'm thinking about starting fall. As before, each course was created separately, so I was not able to copy my Canvas course and have the links connected. I had to recreate the links for each assignment. Is it going to be the same process starting in the fall with Realize It only?
It's going to be a little bit simpler. So with the transition to Realize It being the technical infrastructure for Quantway and Statway, we're lengthening the time that master templates are their life cycle. So you should be able to copy courses from one term to the next a little bit more easily. In the fall, you will have to create the course again from scratch.
Okay, thank you.
But then after fall and subsequent terms, it'll be easier.
That
So
sounds
when you say create it, when you say create it from scratch, does that we'll just have to relink all of the units, right?
Yeah. I mean,
But we can copy what we have, but we'll need to go in and recreate each of those links.
So the actual change or what we have to do in fall is no different from previous years. So you'll remember that every year the master template changes from academic year to academic year. And we can reuse the same links within an academic year because it's coming from the same master template. But a new academic year, we've always released a new master template, which has meant that things have to be created again.
Well,
So-
I've always been able to, in the fall, copy my course, but just go in and relink all of the units. I've never
Yes,
had to rebuild my course from scratch.
That will be, as long as you've requested a course and you get new links from the new master course, then that's absolutely fine. You're just replacing spring links or summer links with the new links. Yes.
Fall
exactly.
links. Okay. Okay.
And also accessing those links through a new tool integration. So it's important that you reach out to Lewis to have that LTI integration established with the Realize It tool instead of the CMP.
That's a good,
Okay.
good little ender. So I'm going to.
And I need to have some administrator at my college do that, right? Like that's not something I can do individually. Okay.
Correct.
So I know we got 4 minutes left and a couple of folks have jumped off already, but I'll just give a 30-second overview of some action takeaways that we can leave the meeting with. So this is the new OER website. For those of you that have or haven't explored, there's an area called courseware. And in this courseware page, there's a space for anyone to just give us a heads up of their intention for the fall 24 term. And clicking this, it's not a commitment to teaching or anything, but it just gives us an indication of which course and the delivery method. So why this is helpful for me, Nicole, is if someone submits this information, then I know that I can pass this to the Realize It folks and I can facilitate and coordinate that connection between your IT folks and the Realize It tech staff to get that integration in place. So I do invite you to if you've not got an account on the OER site already, to get that set up, and then you can submit that information, would be great.
Thanks, Lewis.
Yes, Kelly, Kelly just sent a message about LTI at UWM. Yes, if you're still here, I would encourage you to give it a go. There might be aspects of the barriers that we bumped up against in our endeavors to get the CMP tool greenlit. That might be simpler now that it's just one technological entity in Realize It rather than the CMP portal and Realize It. So I would definitely record that interest and start that conversation.
So the OER login is on a different place than the Carnegie Math Pathways.
Yes.
Yes. Although if you go to
Okay.
Carnegie
I'm
Math
sure there's
Pathways-
some email back somewhere I can dig and find and figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can either try and find the email. We did send an invite to all active faculty. If you can't find that, you can just go to the homepage and then sign up.
Yeah.
And I'll put the
Okay.
Yeah. From the homepage, if you just go to carnegiemathpathways.org, that'll take you over. We still have the banner up at the top to take you over to the OER site, which then you can sign up for. And that's just our way of vetting, because once you sign up with an instructor account, all the instructor notes and solutions are available to you, as well as the full productive persistence package, the most recent version. So worth checking out those resources as well.